it now. Hush.
Coming to you live from deep within a muddy, radioactive wasteland, we are the survivors of the social justice zombie apocalypse. The few, the brave, the bitchy. Coming to you live, and once more wading into battle against the zombie hordes with Rantzerker 66. Let them eat cake! Coming to you live from deep within...
Cake is good. I could go for some cake right now.
Leather meat cake. Still funny to me.
Oh yeah, no, that's like kind of like a meatloaf, only it's fluffier.
I was going in a slightly dirtier direction. With never mind.
Oh no, you're thinking cock meat sandwich.
What?
What?
I'm laughing, but I'm muted.
Oh.
Because my laugh is horrific. But anyway, so here we are once again, and I am joined by the less than usual suspects. Well, some of them are usual. Karen and Brian, your Doge in charge, and Teal Deer, and a secret surprise lurking behind the chairs. So today's topic is, of course, the backlash against Philip Davies and his horribly misogynistic statements at the International Conference on Men's Issues that we all know were horribly misogynistic. And incidentally, Karen was there. She was in the audience when
yes, I was.
When the terrible misogyny occurred.
It was horrible. It was I felt like I needed to crawl under my chair and weep for all womanhood, because he was brutal. You could just tell. Just from that slight side part of the full head of hair, the necktie, all of those patriarchal things, and he just dominated the room, and he made every woman there feel terrified. Absolutely terrified.
That horrible hobbit voice of his. He's like the scariest hobbit in...
Oh, it was awful. It sounded like a cross between Billy Boyd and the devil. I was so scared. I was so scared, but I managed to make it all the way through his entire talk. And I have to say, it was deeply, deeply misogynistic. I mean, calls for equal sentencing for men and women. The fuck is he smoking? Sad.
Well, he's obviously smoking some sort of, I don't know, dried, desiccated misogyny rolled up into a convenient tubular form with a misogynistic filter on the end to filter out all possible, like, non-misogyny elements, I guess. I don't even know. Like, someone save me from Marcel. Do we want to start this thing?
Yes.
Oh,
you guys are ready.
Actually, you know what, Karen? Why don't you tell us a little bit more about what he actually talked about, since all we're getting from the media is...
That he's a misogynist?
Yeah.
What he talked about was, he talked about the fact that women are less likely to be sentenced to custody in the first place when they commit equivalent crimes under equivalent circumstances. That when they are sentenced to custody, they get much shorter sentences than men. And they're less likely to serve their entire sentence than men are. They're more likely to be given early release and things like that. That there have been calls for even more lenient sentencing for women, or in one case, doing away with women's prisons altogether. In terms of some feminists and their advocacy. So essentially, we're looking at feminists who are arguing that even violent female criminals, even career criminals who are female and who engage in extreme violence and stuff like that, they should not have to go to prison, that women's prisons should just simply close, because I guess pouring boiling water on your husband when he's sleeping because you're pissed off at him, and things like that, beating and starving your 4-year-old child to death with your lesbian partner. Those are crimes that, we should be able to give women community sentences for, that, they should be able to serve their sentence in the community and just do some community service or whatever, right? Because, hey, they're women and women just aren't prone to criminality or violence, right? So, yeah.
So what you're saying is essentially his lecture or his speech was based entirely on observable facts that you can find.
Oh yeah, no, just like his presentation before the backbench committee, I believe it was, he did a hour or an hour and a half of presenting the facts because I guess he had, and this was a couple of years ago, he had someone had made a call for women to be sentenced more leniently for their gender to be taken into consideration as a mitigating circumstance and things like that. And there was all this talk of women being more harshly treated by the criminal justice system. So he actually decided he was going to look into the statistics and into the data, and everything that he found pointed in the opposite direction. The only thing that he found where women were more likely to be punished in a certain way than men was with fines or probation. Right? And the reason why they're more likely to get fines and probation is because that's a way for them to avoid a custodial sentence or a harsher sentence. So the men who aren't getting the fines and probation are not getting them not because they're being treated more lightly, but because they're being sentenced to custody.
Yeah, and another thing is that these are statistics coming out of the U.S. If people aren't familiar with the statistics from the U.S., women actually get more of a reduction in sentencing, not just sentences themselves, but whether or not they are sentenced to punishment.
Yeah, U.S. and UK, and probably I would guess every Western nation, they have a gender discount across the board from their first interaction with police, from the moment that they commit a crime. They're less likely to be stopped. When they're stopped, they're less likely to be arrested. When they're arrested, they're less likely to be charged. When they're charged, they're more likely to be charged with a lesser offense, right? When they're charged, they're less likely to be prosecuted. When they're prosecuted, they're less likely to be convicted. When they're prosecuted, they're more likely to have a lesser sentence included, right? And they're less likely to be convicted, and if they are going to be convicted, they're often convicted on that lesser crime. And then when they are convicted, they're less likely to be sentenced to custody, and then their sentences are about 60% shorter than men's. And this is the US, the UK, across the board. In the UK, somebody crunched the numbers and found that if both men and women were treated the way women are treated in the criminal justice system, 5 out of 6 men who are currently in prison would not be there.
And that's probably the ratio of male to female prisoners would be equal.
Not quite equal, but I think it would be closer to 60-40.
Yeah.
Than it is to 95-5, right, or 90-10.
What I was trying to get out there, and of course, this is a general discussion, so I appreciate Karen bringing in more information, but the gender sentencing gap is greater than the gap between white people and black people. So there's more of a penalty for being a man in the gender system than there is for being black.
Oh, it's 6 times wider than
really?
The gap. Yeah, 6 times wider than the gap between blacks and whites. There was a paper that was done by a female researcher, and she found that consistently in the U.S. at least it was 6 times wider between men and women than it is between blacks and whites.
That's so I just wanted to give you guys some perspective on what Philip Davies was actually talking about. He was talking about purely statistical realities. So I mean, essentially he was giving facts, and that's all they were facts about how women get more lenient treatment in the justice system, facts about the kind of lenient treatment. And I want to just read something from the Telegraph about a 2013 initiative in the parliamentary campaign in the UK. So, is it time to abolish most women's prisons is the title. A parliamentary campaign launched today from Sora Optimist and the Prison Reform Trust suggests women and their families are disproportionately affected by a jail term. Ahead of Vicky Pryce's expected release next month, Kathy Newman praises the effectiveness of female imprisonment in the UK and considers the alternatives. So essentially, there are feminists in the UK, and I think Karen might have covered this, who are absolutely proposing to get rid of imprisoning women altogether. Because God knows the fact that we currently imprison probably the worst of female offenders, that we need to unleash those upstanding female citizens on the world, because we all know women, their vaginas make them moral.
Well, one of the things too, right? Like these women, these feminists will say that, you know, so many of these women who are in prison because they're career criminals, they're repeat offenders, they are violent, whatever, right? There are mitigating circumstances in that they were abused as children, or they're mentally ill, or they're addicted to drugs, or whatever, right? And they have these problems in their lives. But all of those same things apply equally to male prisoners. There's a huge percentage of men in prison who are mentally ill, or who are addicted to drugs or alcohol, or who were abused as children and abused while they were growing up. So, you know, like the fact that they would say, or they would use this, the fact that some women are also abused or addicted or mentally ill, and those women end up in prison, and we have to put a stop to that. I mean, they're turning it into a gender issue when it's really not. I would really love it if we took a different approach across the board, and, you know, said, well, people who have serious mental health issues really should not be imprisoned. But that goes for men too, or people who are addicted to drugs. Maybe we could take a more holistic public health approach to their offending, and you know, help them get off of the drugs that they're offending, they're burglarizing, or they're robbing people in order to support their habit. Maybe we could take those approaches, but we should be taking them across the board. And in particular, if you want to look at it from a fiscal standpoint, and, you know, sort of a money that the taxpayer has to pay to keep people incarcerated, I think that we'd all be better off if a lot of these programs, particularly for non-violent offenders that have been proposed and sometimes enacted with female prisoners, you could save way more money and stop way more overcrowding of the prison system if California, when they introduced a program to release up to 80% of non-violent female offenders to save money and free up spaces in prisons. But, you know, and they were thinking, well, maybe at some indeterminate point in the future we could expand this to men. Well, if you're worried about saving money, right, there's tons of men. There's like 10 times as many men in prison for non-violent offenses, right, that often are things as benign or ridiculous as being in arrears, you know, on child support because they got laid off. Right, and those men are in prison to the tune of $50,000 to $60,000 taxpayer dollars every single year. And like, if you want to save money, you don't go for the smaller of the problems. You either go across the board or you tackle the bigger one, right? So, I mean, the entire thing is just fucking special pleading over and over and over and over and over again. Special pleading. Oh, well, women, women prisoners were often abused as children. Yeah, so fucking what, right? That's all I have to say, because if it matters that someone was abused, right, and therefore they should not go to prison, then it matters for everybody who was abused.
All right, and I just wanted to point out, someone called Gooey Senpai says, so we're clutching pearls because feminists poke fun at us. No. No. Feminists are calling for the resignation of Davies, of Philip Davies.
Not the resignation. No, they're calling for him to be suspended. That's different. Right? A resignation would be him taking a bunch of heat and stepping down under pressure from his party. Demanding a suspension is demanding that the party actually take action, whether he's willing to voluntarily go or not.
Right? Okay, so
and by the way, he said this a month ago. The video has been up on the internet for a couple of weeks, I think, but they've only just decided to make a news story out of this. It was shortly after the Labour Party dissolved. Jeremy Corbyn suddenly went, "Hey, look at that sexist Tory over there. He's a bastard. Suspend him." Whoop, 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 whoop.
Okay, so essentially they're trying to force his party to get rid of him. Would that be a more correct statement?
I think it's
Yes.
a smokescreen. I think they're trying to find something some Tory has done wrong, so no one has to think about what
Oh,
the other party.
Well,
happens to have done.
regardless, let me point something out. The idea here is that Davis has not presented anything that isn't totally and utterly backed up with citations. Citation, please, Davis has them. These are facts about our world. We are looking at a political machine, a political organism that refuses to look at. They create policy that affects the real world, and they refuse to look at realities. They've refused to look at statistics that exist, facts that exist on the ground, and they are making policy for us. This is bigger even than men's rights. This is a complete... How can you consider this to be a legitimate government if it refuses to look at actual facts when it creates its policy? When it says that these facts are inconvenient, therefore we don't have to look at them. What the fuck kind of government is that? It's a government of fucking evil clowns that are on fire in a sinking ship. It's not government.
Well, and the fact that he's being accused of misogyny and contempt for women and outdated thinking, regressive thinking, right? When every single thing that he said in that speech was simply a demand for equality, a demand for equal treatment between men and women. That is all he called for. That is all he said. That is the only thing that was the recurring theme through the entire half-hour speech was, if we are to have equality, we cannot treat men and women differently based solely on their sex, right? Based solely on gender. That's all he said throughout the entire fucking thing, and then gave examples of how we're not doing that, right? And he literally said, on the radio, being interviewed, well, you can't just pick and choose where you want to be equal and where you want special treatment. If you are equal, if men and women are equal, right, then they're equal. There's no special treatment for either, right? That's how it's supposed to be. And the fact that, and she said, oh, so you're saying feminism is bad? And he said, well, no, feminism is just fine as long as what they're advocating is actual equality. But they're not.
Okay, I just find it astounding, because even if we set aside the gender issues, we're talking about a government that is essentially walking through the world blind, and they're creating policy. How do we know, or actually we do know, they're not walking towards a fucking cliff? If you're not willing to look at actual information about the world, how do you traverse it? And how can anyone trust them to traverse it? If they're this willing to simply, throw someone out. Oh, you told us the emperor has no clothes. Well, out you go. It's just even if you aren't interested in men's issues or men's rights, you gotta be interested in the fact that these people who call us say we're our leaders, who chart our paths, refuse to look at half of the map. That's gotta fucking, at some point, somewhere in your body, something must be clutching in horror. But maybe we should go to the thing.
The video?
Yes.
The thing.
Yeah, but before we go, let's get Tilder, do you have anything you want to add?
The thing, just the real point that I have here is, in Britain we're used to having our government not listen to us and just ignore data and ignore facts when they're doing pretty much anything. Government in this country has been, all of them have always been connected to some sort of corrupt self-interest fueled nonsense, like pretty much every government imaginable. As long as it's furthering their own political agendas, they don't tend to really care that much for the most part. So,
can I just ask you something? Does the fact that your government refuses to look at reality, and somebody puts citations in front of their face, and they're just like, I don't see that, does that not offend you on a visceral level?
Well, I'm used to it, frankly. Governments are very good at cherry-picking data. They always do this. no doubt that if, and it's a big if, this particular piece of data ever goes forward and is actually taken up by anyone else, they're just going to commission some think tank somewhere to come up with figures which show the complete opposite, because they can. Because it doesn't seem like something that they're actually interested in doing, because if they were to address this, it will always be phrased as some sort of attack against women, and the whole, oh, you just want more women in prison, so it's an attack against single mothers, and, well, basically you've lost a large chunk of your vote there, because that's how they're going to phrase it and play it, because this is how government works. It's not about actually working out what's going to work for people, it's not about actually listening to data or taking any sort of objective thing on it, it's about how many idiots you can manipulate into voting for you, and, well, since the majority of the voting base are fucking morons, it works pretty much all the time anyway. This is why there was a wonderful dictator who once said something along the lines of, most people don't actually vote by information, they vote by feelings, so I'll use emotion for most of them and information for the select few who actually understand it. Very wise leader.
Mm-hmm. And by the way, it's the Guardian's job to inform us of things, you know, in an information-based fucking format. And none of this would even be a story if it wasn't for the lobotomized dickheads running the Guardian. And I don't know if they're doing it just for the sake of a hit piece, or, like I say, just to divert attention from whatever's going wrong in their own camp. But yeah, this basically all started with that Guardian article. Ugh, which I don't even want to...
This is again how politics operates. It's whenever your own MP is caught dicking an 8-year-old, you suddenly point at the other side and say, well, look what they're doing over on that side of the house. No one look over here.
I just wanted to put another thing out. When I first heard about this call to get Davies suspended because of his statements at the ICMI, which incidentally was not really a den of misogyny. I'm sure at some point in the future we're going to have some breathless feminist cougar stumble into one of our conventions in the hopes that she gets, so that she can find some rapiness going on. And it will be just so interesting when she finds like a bunch of men and women in tweed talking about abstract, weird, like not weird, but a rarefied citational crap that nobody else is interested in. But I just wanted to put that out. And when I first heard of this, I said on Twitter through the HBR account, isn't it interesting how men's rights, according to feminists, are the most defended rights on the planet, and that's why we can't defend them at all.
Well, yeah. Yeah, no, we're living in upside down land.
It's like, that's why anybody who stands up to defend men's rights is cut down at the knees and left bleeding in the side of the road. You know what? We should get to the thing. Unless Karen wants to.
The thing! Bring us the thing!
Okay,
and
let's
a shrubbery!
get to the thing.
Shrubbery!
What? Alright,
wait!
Whoa,
There's something
okay,
even more
okay.
critical. You have never watched The Search for the Holy Grail.
Yeah, you've never watched Monty Python
Brian?
and the Holy Grail?
Who?
You will bring us a shrubbery!
You never watched
no,
that, Brian.
I've seen it. I've seen it.
And then you shall cut down the tallest tree in the forest with a herring!
Yep.
That's impossible. Okay, all right, let's.
Okay. All right. Let's see that. Let's find out if this works. I'm gonna push the button. Doge the controls.
Don't push it, Brian. Don't push the button.
Oh God.
Okay, you pushed it.
It's not working.
No. It should work. It should work.
I think it's working. It's working for me.
I just need to grab the. Is it playing for you?
It's playing for me. Is it playing for everyone else?
Well, it's not playing right now. You paused.
It did for like a second, yeah.
Yeah.
Hold on.
The Conservative MP.
Yeah, it's playing now.
Okay, I'm playing it now. All right.
Okay, good. All
Here we
right.
go.
Shipley, Philip Davies, is facing criticism and a social media backlash for a speech he made a month ago at a men's rights conference. The conference was organised by the Justice for Men and Boys Party, which intends to field candidates in the next general election. In his speech, Mr Davies said he didn't believe there was a problem between men and women, only one being stirred up by, and I quote, militant feminists and politically correct males who pander to this nonsense.
Just pausing it in case. I know there's no actual video. It's
Yeah,
just
I
an
don't know if
audio
this is
thing,
going to
so-
be. Well, it might, but there's also some. if that was honestly what he said, well, first of all, it's innocuous and true. It's a little
Yeah.
pointedly stated, but it's true. I think that men and women actually want to get along for the most part. And I think that for the most part, it's feminists and maybe some elements of women's natural tendencies, since they
Well,
haven't actually challenged feminism. But
and politically correct men that want women to have their cake and eat it.
too, but that's an aspect of the male gender role. Like, you sacrifice everything for women. And that's how you earn your positive identity. Anyway, let's banana
Okay.
this sucker.
All right.
Let's hear a
Actually, I was
little
going to
more.
say, one of the amusing things about this is how much of a stir they're trying to kick up about the Justice for Men and Boys Party. Much as I do enjoy Mike Buchanan and his appearances on everything, that party has no chance of really doing anything ever. They're too small to achieve anything. I believe in the last election they got something like 50 votes. They're not in any way going to be a major threat or a contender to anything for a very long time. So it's just
Yeah.
hilarious that they're really throwing them out like, oh, look at the threat that they're posing. It's like, no, it's nice that they exist and I do appreciate what they do. Like I said, I'm not like shit talking them, but they are not in any way a threat in any way to established politics. Not at the moment, anyway.
It's not like they're UKIP. It's not like they've got a chance of getting even 3 seats in the constituency. They're not going to,
Yeah, the odds of them
UKIP are
getting
actually a
one
threat.
seat is.
They don't even have the same chance as Nick Redding did in the municipal election running under the Patriarchy Party ticket, because I think he got more votes in that election than you're claiming that Jay for MB got in the last one, where they ran a couple of candidates. And so it's essentially it's actually quite funny that a bombastic fake political party with an extremely sarcastic and ridiculous
Mandate.
platform.
What are you talking about? Ridiculous. Our mandate to make all livestock resemble the wiener dog phallic model. That was not ridiculous.
Okay,
That was
and
truly inspired.
neither was his pledge that by the time he was done reforming the domestic violence services system, there would be one bed for men and a dirty dog blanket for women in the province of Alberta.
They get a blanket?
But how about his pledge to have hot and cold running girls' tears in every house? I mean, seriously.
And the outlawing of little girls playing with Tonka trucks. Yeah.
Oh yeah, all of this inspired and totally. Actually, what was really hilarious about Mick Redding is when he went on a news show.
Yeah.
They were initially like playing it straight, and then one person was like, "This is not for real," and it's like Nick was like, "Yes, yeah." He couldn't keep it anymore. He had to. It's like the guy who was interviewing him was like, "This can't be for real," and Nick finally broke down and said, "Yeah, no, but nobody,
right, it is so-
nobody in the world believes this shit."
Yeah.
Okay, so it was that's pretty sad that a genuine group, a genuine political group like Justice for More Boys and Men, who really is about bringing about equality where men and boys are lacking. So in terms of services for issues that they face.
Yeah, they're less popular than a political party that pledged to change the name of Alberta to Albertistan to express allegiance and loyalty to our oppressed Taliban brothers.
Okay, yeah, that's and certainly it proves that we're all a patriarchy that's designed to help men above women.
Oh, yeah.
God.
Well, just while we're on the topic of like quite fringe British politics parties, I think it bears saying out here the different approach that the BBC has taken to two of them in particular. The Justice for Men and Boys Party, as I've already said, they're a small party. They're basically inconsequential. They're probably not going to achieve anything, certainly not for years or years to come, if anything ever at all. BBC, the establishment, basically government propaganda organisation at this point, shits all over them. Women's Equality Party, another inconsequential party that are probably never going to achieve anything ever. Government propaganda machine that is the BBC holds them up and is like, yeah, this is a really cool party looking for equality, even though the Justice for Men and Boys Party, I've looked through a lot of their sort of figures and whatnot, and they tend to actually come up with like legitimate arguments and legitimate evidence for their positions, whereas the Women's Equality Party is always the wishy-washy, oh, we just want equality.
Aquatic
and
tree.
that's kind of where it is. Yeah, they want an aquatic tree.
Well, the whole idea.
It just interested me, like the difference that the BBC takes. Like, you know, we get this thing. It's like, oh, the patriarchy and the status quo, and everyone who's trying to keep the women's down are supporting the status quo and all of that sort of shit. It's like, hang on, the actual people in the positions of power that we've got at the moment are bigging up the Women's Equality Party while shit-talking parties like Justice for Men and Boys and their associates when they're in kind of the same position. How is the establishment doing this thing to systematically keep the women folk down?
Yeah.
I love when they use the word systematic, when the words systematic and systemic just seem to be completely interchangeable to these people when they're totally different words.
Yeah.
Yeah, that bullshit.
No, and what gets me, I don't know if you guys remember an interview with Quinn Norton, who's sort of the hacker communities, and Anita Sarkeesian. But she was interviewed by, I believe, BBC or someone like that, and she says,
Newsnight, I think.
Yeah, the problem is that men are raised to hate women. And nobody ever fucking thinks to ask a follow-up question. Okay, so who's raising these men? Because 53% of children in the UK are being raised in families without fathers. They're being raised in households headed by mothers. So who's raising men to hate women?
Well, that just proves that you're a misogynist, that you would ask that question, Karen. You just proven everyone's point. Such a misogynistic question to ask. There, let's carry on doing what we're doing.
I'm just like, nobody, like, this is really the thing, is that, like, when I go on, like, into hostile territory, so David Pacman or the Young Turks or, any kind of, the Mother Jones and the Maclean's magazines and the New Republics and all of these, and I give interviews, CBC, stuff like that. I get asked to defend my positions. I will state something. They will ask me a question. I will say what I think, and they will say, "Well, how can you say that?" And even when I go into friendly places, I just did an interview for a radio show in New Zealand. It's like a 2-part. It'll be aired in 2 parts because it's an hour long, and we can post the link to the first part in the thing if you want. But essentially, even the guy, these are friendlies. One of them was Danny Duchamp, right? And who makes videos on YouTube from his shitty Honda Fit, taking apart feminist stuff, right? But even they were asking me difficult questions. They were playing devil's advocate a lot, and you never see anybody playing devil's advocate to feminists. You don't see them doing it genuinely in terms of, well, I disagree. Can you please explain your position and convince me? Or in terms of, well, I'm just going to ask what the opposition would ask you if they were here, right? You never see it, ever.
Yeah, what we, that makes our positions, we have to be ready to defend them from multiple attacks. It keeps us on our toes. And in that sense, it could be a good thing.
Of course it is.
But it would be good if they did this to feminists as well, and keep them on their toes. But then they would call misogyny, because keeping women on their toes is something you never do to men. You never actually challenge men. Men just get. Nobody ever said, "Oh wait, Davis is being suspended for." I guess that doesn't really work. Nobody ever challenges men for the things that they think or say. Okay, shall we continue, Brian?
Let us continue. You guys can't all hear this, right? When I play it? It's
yeah,
working?
we can
Yes.
hear it.
Okay, good.
That speech.
Generally, there seems to be a deafening silence on all the benefits women have compared to men. In this day and age, the feminist zealots really do want women to have their cake and eat it. They fight for their version of equality on all the things that suit women, but are very quick to point out that women need special protections and treatment on other things.
Well, that
Just pausing it may as well. That was
I'm not.
an
Yeah,
excerpt
just
from his
just
speech.
to be safe. I know people find this annoying, but it's how we've managed to get this far without a strike.
Yeah. I mean, I think I could play most of it, but
We have to play by YouTube's rules.
yeah, we don't, and
Until
they're
we
always
get-
changing.
Yeah, and until we get our own server and we're able to host something like this live through our own, our own internet connection, which might be possible in the future. Until that day comes, you have to suffer the banana.
Incidentally, when the charge is you want to have your cake and eat it, the traditional rebuttal is no, I don't. But the feminists went with yes, we do, and it's awesome. Look at us eating cake and having it. Rah rah rah. It's you see, this is what happens if they're not kept on their toes. They don't have a fucking cogent argument left in their head.
But it's you understand it from feminist logic. It's the logic of the oppressed. When you eat your cake, this is the logic of the oppressed, Brian, because women are oppressed. When you eat your cake, you can have your cake too by taking someone else's cake, by taking men's cake, because then men's cake becomes your cake. So you eat your cake, and then because you don't have a cake, men are obligated to give you their cake, and that becomes your cake, and thus you have your cake and eat it too. And this
All cake is my cake.
All cake is my cake is the language of the oppressed throughout history.
What's mine
Once
is mine.
it's been eaten,
Yeah,
it
no,
becomes someone else.
those slaves picking cotton, 200 years ago, their entire attitude was, cracker, what's mine is mine and what's yours is ours, honey. Totally.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
Let's hit it.
Yep.
last comment has prompted women to put pictures of themselves up on social media eating cake
Feminists,
with the
not
hashtag
women.
But they're the same thing. But my ideology and sex are the same.
them eat cake. We can speak now to Philip Davies. Do you stand by your comments?
Yes, I was just making the point about the justice gender gap, which is the figures are perfectly clear. They're facts. They're not opinions. They're facts. So, for example, 61% of men who are convicted of robbery are sent to prison. Only 37% of women who are convicted of robbery are sent to prison. 33% of men who are sentenced for child cruelty are sent to prison. Only 15% of women are sent to prison. For every single category of offence,
She sat there struggling to think of an argument.
be sent to prison than a woman.
What do I say?
Spend longer in prison than a woman, and these are facts. These are from the official figures from the Ministry of Justice. They're not opinions. And
I just want to say, what kind of world do we live in where a person presents facts, things that cannot be refuted, and they're not based on emotions. They are simply what is. And they still have to make they have to sit there and say, look, I'm not giving you my opinion as much as you really want to believe I'm giving you my opinion. I'm telling you what is happening. The sky is blue. And then someone is saying, no, that's just what it is to you. I see it differently.
I believe the argument she's about to come out with. Yes, these may be facts, but it's just the way you presented those facts.
Yeah,
we're just surrounded in these horrible derogatory words, and then she gives two examples of derogatory words.
Oh, well, I want to hear that. Okay.
It's not what you said, it's the way you said it, and you should understand my feelings!
It's two of the words you happened to use while describing these facts. Ah!
I believe in equality, and for me to say that I think that the court should be gender blind, and if you believe in equality, a man should be treated exactly the same in the court as a woman. I don't really see why that's controversial. That's equality.
Well, you talked
Oh, here she is.
about versions of equality, and
Yes.
you've just said that you believe in equality. Surely there's no such thing as a version of equality. There is just equality.
Oh, she's
How
just
many
being so
versions?
fucking obtuse. She's being
How
so
many versions of equality does feminism have? There's a
Yeah.
fucking 1,000 versions of feminism, and apparently they're all to do with equality.
Yeah,
Fuck
well,
yourself, you stupid cunt.
No, it's like when he's talking about versions of equality, he's talking about the difference between actual equality and people who say they're advocating for equality while advocating for special treatment. Right? That's the feminist version of equality, right? The radical militant feminist version of equality is special pleading for women. Equality on all of the measures that are positive, and nothing less than equality on those in the boardroom, in politics, among the wealthy, in terms of wages earned and stuff like that. But, nothing, no equality in any of the negative outcomes, no equality in terms of deaths on the job, no equality in terms of how long a sentence you serve for committing a crime, no equality there, because, that equality, that version of equality of the negatives, right? That's not what feminists are after, right? So she's literally saying that by him using this term, versions of equality, he's advocating for some kind of version of equality that is an actual equality, when in reality, his use of that term is accusing feminists of doing that.
But
Like, she's taking it
aquatic trees,
completely
Karen.
out of context.
Teal deer?
But aquatic trees, Karen.
Yeah.
Don't you get it?
There are hundreds of different kinds of aquatic trees.
No, there's only one kind of equality, and it's feminism. Bear that in mind at all times, folks.
God. All right, shall we continue?
Exactly, that's my whole point. And so my whole point is this, is that women can't say, these sort of feminists can't say on one hand that we believe in equality, but actually when it comes to being sentenced to prison, actually we want to be treated differently to men, because that's in effect what they're saying at the moment. They want to be treated differently before the courts when it suits them, but they want to have equality on everything else. And my point is, if you believe in equality, and I believe in equality, and I'm making the case for equality, then you've got to follow that logic through, and you've got to say, well, I believe women should be treated by the courts in exactly the same way as men. That's true equality.
But the way in which you framed the facts that you've presented, using really quite derogatory language, you describe feminism as very derogatory. You talk about militant feminists and zealots. Do you not see feminism as a
That's
good
the best
thing?
you could come up with.
Okay, all right.
Militant and zealot.
I don't like your facts, but you used words that offend me, so your facts are invalid.
Yeah, no, he's actually saying and here's the thing that gets me, right? Because when you say just feminists and you don't use those derogatory terms, right? All you get is not all feminists. Not all feminists are like that. You're just lumping us all in with the militants and the radicals, right? Okay, so when you actually make the differentiation, you make the distinction, and you are calling out the militants and the zealots and the radicals, okay? You actually do what they want you to do, which is to make the distinction, right? Then they say, oh, but you're using all of these derogatory terms like militant and zealot. Like, you know what? Fuck off, you stupid bint. Fucking pick one or the other. Are we supposed to use a broad brush, or are we supposed to single out the radical elements of feminism? Which are we supposed to do? How can we fucking win with you, you stupid cunt?
You can't. That's the point. You don't win.
Never ends.
It never ends. It's always about supremacy, and the supremacy has no logic except supremacy. As long as they can get you to shut the fuck up, that's their win. Doesn't matter how illogical they are.
Hey,
That's their win.
This is also another one of those cases of the actual data and what's being discussed and the principles of equality are not as important as feminism not being thrown under the bus. Well, hold on. We got to defend the label. Wait. You're attacking feminism on behalf of some principles, but the principles is like, we can talk about that, but first we got to validate this feminist label. We got to make sure that it's still clean and untarnished by any of the fringe, tiny amounts of individuals that dare to use its name in a sinful and destructive way. Those people don't represent us. This is a pure thing. Drink from the golden goblet of this man tears mug, and then you will see. Put the wafer under your tongue and all that shit.
It is just like the Catholic Church. It's like, why are you raping boys? Stop raping boys. And all they can say is, how dare you sully the good name of the church?
Exactly.
We must work on unsullying our reputation. No, work on not raping boys, you fucking sociopath.
Well, yeah. At least, I don't know. In the Catholic Church, I don't.
At least in the Catholic Church, even regarding the cover-up, right? the fact, like, you don't cover up, the fact that you shoplifted a chocolate bar, right? You don't cover up something that you aren't willing to acknowledge is wrong, right? You only engage in a cover up when you know there's something really fucked up going on, right? Then you engage in a cover up to conceal it, right? With feminism, it's all fucking out in the open. It's just like their legs are spread, their vaginas are on display, and you're gonna like it, right? And if there's no cover up involved, none of these ladies are wearing fucking tampons. Like, they're just free bleeding their ideology all over the fucking universe,
Right.
shamelessly, and criticizing anybody who disagrees with them even in the slightest. Because by doing that, you are the fucking misogynist. You are the horrible person. You are the evil. You are
I'd
the
like to point something out.
Is it
No,
still
I'm not
illegal?
defending religion,
Is it
but
still illegal to discuss what goes on in family courts? Because that's kind of a cover up.
No, it's like this is one of the things too that family courts in the UK used to be secret. I don't know if they are still, but there was this one girl who posted a video. She was 16 or something, and she'd moved to Australia with her dad. When he finally got custody, her sister was still with her mom in the UK somewhere, and it wasn't until she was in Australia that she felt like she could speak publicly about it and start making YouTube videos about it, because there's a gag order. You sign a non-disclosure agreement as to what goes on in family court. You're not allowed to talk about it, and that's fucking scary as shit.
okay, I just want to point something out really quick about the Catholic pedophile priest scandal. In the 50 years that's been going on, or since the 50s, the amount of boys that have come forward to claim that Catholic priests raped them is equivalent, or roughly equivalent, to the amount of boys who are sexually abused in a juvenile detention facility in the U.S. in 1 year. Just to give a scale of this.
Yeah.
Now, they can't be exactly, these two figures can't be exactly equalized, because we're talking about people who came forward in 50 years versus people who are boys who are admitting to having been sexually abused on a survey, which is anonymous. But it's something to consider, that if we're going to point fingers at the Catholic Church, I think we need to point fingers at ourselves as well, because we're not looking at that. And in many cases, it's media and even just society in general. There's no need for a cover-up. I think this is what Karen was getting at. There's no need for a cover-up because it's right out in the open and no one gives a shit. No one gives a shit enough to look or care.
Yeah, and no one gives enough of a shit to hide it.
When the Catholic Church was getting implicated, there was a political element to it. Because the U.S. government, and essentially it's rape camps for where boys are the victims, nobody's going after them because there's no political reason to do it. So the reason why the boys in the Catholic priest channel were believed and given attention was because there was a political reason to do it, and it's as simple as that. Boys don't matter.
I think also
political benefit.
I think also the reason why the Catholic Church was called so hard on it, and the juvenile detention system is not being called on it, is because the majority of the offenders in the juvenile detention system are women. With Catholic priests, they're all men, and there is that. I don't even think it's homophobia. I think it's androphobia. I think it's this sort of female sexuality is a gift that you give to somebody, and okay, so even if you didn't want it, even if it's that ugly sweater your aunt gave you for Christmas, you'll wear it and you'll like it for one day while she's visiting, right? And it's just not because the thought. It's the thought that counts, right? She gave you a gift, right? And you don't want to be ungrateful, right? Whereas with priests, with men, it seems like we only care about sexually abused boys when they're sexually abused by men. So I think that has something to do with it too. I think that nobody wants to even look at the fact that the majority of offenders of juveniles in detention facilities and of prisoners in general, when it comes to staff on inmate sexual abuse, are women, at least disproportionately compared to their their proportionality within the staff, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, and that's another disproportionate justice statistic that would fit right in Davies' lecture.
Yeah,
Never mind the priests, by the way. The nuns have been beating the shit out of children in
raping
their
them
various
too.
schools, for centuries. Oh, but wait, it's their job to do that. Oh, that's okay then.
Oh my God! Some of the stories that I've heard about nuns and beating somebody's hand, especially left-handed kids, way back when they dared to write with their left hand, and they would the nun would just take a rod to their hand until it was not usable. They could not use their hand to get them to use their right hand instead. So. Yeah.
Yeah, let's. But this is sort of a digression, and I apologize, Mike. I wanted to, give some context to all of this. I think that.
Yeah,
I
I was giving some context to remember we were originally talking about women, and I compared it with the Catholic Church just for anyone who's, it's comparable in not scale, but there's something comparable about it.
Yeah, well, it's comparable in that, when people say, I don't want to deal with this because the real important issue is that my ideology isn't sullied, that it gives you an idea of their values. The important issue is not that people are being hurt or inequalities are being perpetuated. The important issue is that we all consider feminism our savior.
Yep.
It is the light and the way.
It is the light and the way. It is the body and the blood.
But there is only one feminism, unless you're talking about those radical feminists. They're not my feminism. Those militant feminists. But don't call them militant. That's insulting. But there's only one feminism. We've entered another initiatic Taurus.
There's also womanism, which is a thing that's been coming up lately too. A whole other animal. All right. Well, anyway, let's continue.
No, what I see is hypocrisy is a bad thing. I believe in equality, and if people want to make the case for equality, as I'm doing, that's great.
But that wasn't my question. Do you think feminism is a bad thing?
Yes.
No, feminism's fine if it believes in true equality. That's fine. But what I'm against are these militant feminists, and we've seen today. All of this social media hysteria. I'm arguing for equality. I'm asking for men and women to be treated the same. Is anyone actually engaging that argument? No. They're hurling abuse. They don't want the debate to be had. They're trying to quieten the debate because they don't really believe in equality. What they believe in is for women to have equality when it suits them, and they believe in women not having equality when it doesn't suit them. And so you can't have it both ways. You either believe in equality in everything, or you don't believe in equality. And I was making the case for equality, and that means, I'm afraid, that women should be treated by the courts in exactly the same way as men. That is what true equality means. You can't pick and choose which bits of equality you want.
Philip Davies, MP for Shipley, thank you for joining
There
us.
you go. It's like feminists want this buffet. They want a buffet, and they're like, oh, the 3-bean salad? No. This, the kale? No. But I'll have the deep fried shrimp, and I'll have the, this, that, and the other, right? I'll have the, all of the good things, and I can just leave those other things that I don't like, right? That, is Brussels sprouts? Fuck, who wants them, right?
And there's a tray of Ritalin over there. We'll give that to the boys. Oh, we don't want it.
Yeah, no, we'll force feed them that, right? That, they don't get a choice; they have to have them. But it's just like this is so much what it is. They really do treat equality as if it's just a buffet where they can pick and choose the dishes that they want, and the other dishes they can just leave there, and and the ladies first. Women get first pick. So when the men come along in the line, all of the good stuff is gone, and they're stuck eating kale and Brussels sprouts and Ritalin, and that's it, right?
And they're going to prison.
Yeah, well,
and
then when they load up their plates, they're arrested at the door for theft. Yeah, so there you go. For stealing things that women might want, or whatever, right? Like it's just like I'm flabbergasted by it. I can't help but just call it. We're living in upside down land. It is upside down land.
Yep. And I wanted to actually, to be honest, I think the interviewer was a lot more even-handed than maybe people. I got the sense that she was saying, well, this is what you've been accused of, and she's giving him the opportunity to speak, and she was not interrupting him. And that's really what allowed him to get all of that out and sound so sensible.
Yeah.
Which
It's edited.
kudos to that.
It's clearly edited in post, by the way, and there's 2 different channels of speaking, so they could easily have edited out the interruptions.
Yeah, but still, they kept in.
Hello? Alison? Hello? Hello, shit. Is anyone there? Shit.
I'm
You can't
flabbergasted
even.
by it.
Am I the only one here? Fuck. I didn't do anything. The connection was lost. Shit.
I'm
All right.
flabbergasted
even.
by it.
Alright, hold on. I'm gonna try to save the stream here. I don't know why that happened. But it is doable. And it won't be very difficult. I'm just gonna start a new hangout. So just a moment. Oops, that's me. No, I'm gone. We're gonna make this disappear for a second. And I don't know why that happened. Sorry guys, this will just take a moment. I'm gonna bring them back in. I don't know how that happened. Hangouts just went kaput for no fucking reason.
Oh, there he is.
What the fuck? I don't know what happened.
I don't know
Turn
either.
off my thing. No.
Are
Yeah,
we
but-
still going?
I'm here. Yeah, we're still
we're still
going.
going?
It's just that I'm here alone. So I just gotta share the audio from this window. So it'll just take a moment.
All right.
Back down here. Hold on. We're still live and people are still watching. They're just talking shit.
Maybe it was because you went like
offline.
yeah, offline.
I don't know why that happened because I was just sitting here. Unless okay.
Do you want to just end the stream?
No. It's fine. We're good. We're good. All right. Say something.
Okay, we're good.
All right, we're good.
All right,
So,
I'm saying something. We're good. All right,
yeah.
all right.
All right. So I think that there's audio now. Let me just.
Okay, let's
Make
put something
sure.
up besides that white
what
background because it looks really
happened.
shit. All right.
No, I'm going to.
I don't know
turn off
either.
my thing.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
No.
Are you
but-
guys hearing
I'm
us
here.
now?
Yeah, we're still.
Are you guys
Yeah,
hearing
they
us
can
in
hear.
the chat?
I'm monitoring the stream. It's all. That's it in the background.
All right,
Okay, good.
We're good.
All right. Sorry about that,
So,
guys.
I'm gonna put something up in the meantime. But go ahead.
Yeah, Brian is going to put something up in the meantime. I'm going to continue to attempt to host this and
No,
conclude it.
you guys are still talking about what happened. Just keep talking about what happened.
What Jesus fucking? I'm trying to intro into doing that.
Oh, okay. Go for it.
So we apologize. Google Plus just dropped Brian for no apparent reason, just like that.
Yeah.
And we do not know why because Google in its infinite majesty does not give you any ability to comment upon their
So I
service.
think it dropped everyone else. Here in the Hangout, it looked like it dropped Brian, but over actually on the stream.
No, what happened was the stream is processed through the software that Brian is using. So Brian is the only connection to YouTube at this moment. Google Plus dropped him, which means his connection dropped all of us. Does that make any sense?
Okay, now you know, folks.
Yeah. Okay. So now you know what happened, and now I'm getting a freaking phone call. When it rains, it pours.
It's probably just somebody wanting money.
Okay. Yeah, probably is. All right, guys. Let's conclude this before any more shit happens. Teal dear, do you have any last thoughts? Should I not have called upon you?
Yeah. Okay, let's actually go have something on the fucking topic here, shall we?
Yeah.
I find it hilarious how in the end of that interview, all of those long years it was ago that we were actually able to listen to it, that woman's basically, her only retort ended up basically coming down to, oh, so do you like feminism? It's just like, I'm not going to address your point, it's just, I'm going to just sort of say, well, do you just think feminism is a terrible thing overall? It's like, anything to sort of sidestep the data being presented, anything to sidestep the actual point being made. I mean, I'm quite surprised that she didn't go down the, so, are you not a feminist even though you support equality? Because that's what it all is, because my dictionary. I'm quite surprised she didn't try and pull that old fucking canard out.
She was happy with, do you love the baby Jesus? Why do you hate the baby Jesus?
Why do you want to make baby Jesus cry?
Yeah, that was the only thing that mattered.
I think that's a pretty good summation. Do you want me to do my final statements, and then we
Yes.
we take it out if I can fucking find
Yeah.
it? Oh my god.
I'm ready to get the fuck out of here. So yeah.
All right. Well, let's see if I can actually find the damn things. You know what? I'm really sorry, guys. Everything that's happened has just sort of left me in a situation where I got all of my stuff everywhere. Okay, all right, there we go. No, actually, this isn't correct.
Shit's all over the place, Alison.
I know,
God
shit
damn
is
it.
all over the place, and I feel really, really bad about this, guys.
Don't.
Don't feel
If
bad.
you have any
Don't.
problem with the technical problems that we've had and would like to issue a complaint, feel free to go to Twitter and send your complaints to @sargonofacard.
TWIS.
That would be hashtag TWIS.
Sargon of Akkad, yes.
Sargon of Akkad, and make sure you insult him while you do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I mean, I had awesome, like, guys, I'm gonna tell you that this was like one of the best shills. It would have been a shill where you would have left the show and you would probably be trying to decide whether or not you wanted to cry.
It's a shill to end all shills.
Oh
is
wait,
it?
I found it. I found it.
It would have left the pillars of
Oh,
heaven
now
shaking.
now you know. Now you know that you've pumped it like that. You have to deliver.
Yeah, totally.
Just, this isn't that shill, this is just a tribute.
This is just a tribute. Okay, a couple weeks ago, Karen ranted at a commentator who was getting a little feisty about me. I think it was Happy Drumstick, and he was essentially questioning my integrity. And there were some people who got on her case about the rant and the length, and I know that Teal Dare may have rolled his antlers a bit at it, which is fine. But in the end of the day, Karen had that half-hour rant because, and I know that Karen will immediately say that I'm completely lying, she cares about your opinion. The people who are listening.
I don't fucking give two shits about anybody's opinion. So
yeah. That's totally proved by the fact that you had to correct me on whether or not you care about people's opinion. All right, a lot of people had talked about having like proper customer service, and they come up to me like, yo, you don't practice proper customer service. But I'm gonna tell you what a lot of customer service is. It's treating you like a resource, smiling, saying what you want because you don't care. Because the person in front of you is just a wallet that you need to extract. The wallet, I mean, by any means necessary. You guys aren't wallets to us. You are our equals. That may seem strange to say because we're on the stage talking and you're in the audience listening. But the idea we're above you is an illusion. And I'm going to tell you why. When I was a kid, I used to love a book called Watership Down. If you don't know what Watership Down is, it's a book about a bunch of rabbits who are struggling to survive in the downs of in the UK. So those are just hills in the UK. And my parents bought me that book, a version of that book when I was 9. It was a pretty substantial tome. It was like almost 2 pounds, heavy cover, lots of illustrations. I loved that fucking book. I took it everywhere, and I must have read it about 100 times. And I read it not till just the spine broke. I read it till the cover split along its seams, until like pages were falling out. I just frickin' loved that book. And if you've ever read Watership Down, you know that it's not just about rabbits struggling to survive. It's about us and how we face the truths of our existence. As the years passed and I read that book over and over again, I noticed something really odd. The words changed. Now, that's impossible because I was reading exactly the same book over and over again. It wasn't another edition, it was the same book, and I still have that book to this day. But the words changed. And as I realized as I got older, it wasn't the words that was changing, it was how I was hearing them that was changing. I was becoming a different person each time I read that book. I wasn't just passively reading the words, I was hearing them. I was forming new conclusions, new connections, recognizing new insights, in some cases even arguing with the insights presented. Because each time I read the words of Watership Down, I was a new person. Well, the story of Watership Down was being created by both myself as a reader and the author Richard Adams. And this is why I say we're equals. I call you my listening colleagues. And I call you my listening colleagues because no one is heard, no speaker is heard unless someone is listening. There is no one Honey Badger radio. There are at least 30,000 Honey Badger radios. Each of them created you as much as by me, or Karen, or Brian, or Mike, or Teal Dare since he's on this one. Because when you hear these words, what you'll hear will be one of 30,000 versions and variations. Sometimes you'll listen to these words and you'll hear a happy drumstick variation, and you'll get your dander up and start accusing people of malfeasance. Sometimes you'll hear a William version, and for those of you who don't know, William was another commentator who was quite... He gave very honest but very harsh criticism. You'll hear a William version, and you'll write out an eloquent but scathing criticism of what you hear. And sometimes it'll be exactly what you want to hear, and sometimes it will be somewhere in the middle. And that's fine too. I get a lot of that. I agree with much of what you say, but not all of it, not everything. And all of those responses are exactly right, because you're not an audience, you're not fans, you are our listening colleagues. But as my equals, I just would like to say that I expect certain behaviors. For example, I expect certain behaviors from Karen, and she expects them from me, even though we'll jokingly, rib each other and insult each other. There are certain things we won't do to each other. Emotional blackmail, extortion attempts, concern trolling, accusations of being a bad person. These are things you don't do to a friend, you don't do to an equal, you don't do to a colleague. So no, I'm never gonna stop calling people out when they engage in those behaviors. And if you think I'm gonna smile and nod to get your sub or your money, think again. A while back I described how a bunch of bullies found my tree fort when I was a kid and tried to intimidate me into leaving or submitting by saying I could if I kissed the dirt. Do you think I would have done what they said if they had offered me a lolly instead? I'm not going to fear you. We're peers. I can't fear that you're going to abandon me if I expect a standard of respect, do peers, or say something you don't like. And I'm not talking about legitimate criticism like William's, honestly offered, if harsh. William spoke his truth from his perspective. He did so without any attempts at being manipulative or intimidating. I respect that. He was treating me as an equal on the level. And I noticed that some people were calling him a cuck and a house nigger, and I don't think that's right either. It almost looked like some of you thought that William was spitting on your idol. But I'm not your idol. Karen isn't. Brian isn't. Mike isn't. Teal Deer is, I don't know where he stands with that, but I don't want to be your idol. And I'm not because of any kind of false modesty. Because idols get toppled. I don't want to be an idol. Out of self-preservation. So if you expect me to submit to you and treat you with a smile when you're acting like an asshole, play the game of making you feel superior as I roll you for your resources, fuck it. And if you also think that I'm going to appreciate being treated like some infallible idol right to the point you suddenly realize I'm not, fuck that too. Tear apart William's criticism, don't tear apart William. Because he treated me like an equal, a peer, and he gave his honest opinion. I have no power over you, and you have no power over me. Any power I have over you, you've given me. So don't treat me like I've taken it, and any power over me I've given you. And I don't plan on giving anyone power over me. I'm going to treat you like an equal, because you are one. I'm going to expect to be treated like an equal, because I am too. You are my listening colleagues. I am your speaking colleague. And together we make Honey Badger Radio. There are 30,000 Honey Badger Radios, and you have the exclusive rights to one of them. Thank you.